Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us at the 2021 Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame induction celebration and awards ceremony. My name is Mike Wilner. You might remember me as a longtime voice of the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm now a columnist for the Toronto Star and host a great podcast that always has some emphasis on Canadian baseball called Deep Left Field. And I'm very, very happy to be a board member of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. Thank you so much for joining us for this ceremony. We are going to be doing things a little bit differently this season, not just virtually, but in general, because without an in-person induction, we figured now's a pretty good time to look back at some of the trailblazers and pioneers of Canadian baseball, maybe some of the people we missed. And they're going to be inducted this year in this ceremony. Thank you once again for joining us. I want to now introduce the chair of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame for a few words of welcome. Here is Jeremy Dunn.
Thank you, Mike, for the introduction and for all that you do to keep the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum front and center with baseball fans across this great country. As chair of the Hall, I hope you are all well and already looking forward to the 2022 baseball season to begin. Only 89 days until spring training, but who's counting? At the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum, we aim to tell the stories of Canada's baseball past while celebrating the game today at the museum, on our diamonds, and online, which includes our brand new website. If you haven't checked this out yet, please visit baseballhalloffame.ca. While it has been tough not to see you all during our induction weekend held in June each year, we know that when we do get back together next year, we will make up for lost time. Although digital in format, I expect today's event to achieve some of the same goals that our in-person events do. And that is get people excited about the game, share some stories that you may not know, and get to see some special guests. I would like to thank our generous sponsors for supporting the work that we do every day, both at the museum and across the country, including our corporate partners, TD, BMO, and JMRD Watson. We are so thankful for the Jays Care Foundation, whose Field of Dreams grant, along with additional funding from our longtime supporter, the town of St. Mary's, as well as St. Mary's Minor Ball, is currently allowing us to upgrade our own Field of Dreams at the Hall. We look forward to showing it off sometime next year. And to our friends at Left Field Brewery, whose recent launch of outstanding pub ale honors the legacy of our 2021 inductees. This is now for sale at Left Field's bottle shop in Toronto or available to order through their website. We are thrilled that 25 cents from each sale will go to support the Hall of Fame. We look forward to celebrating in person with them next year to kick off the 2022 induction weekend. As a small organization, we rely on a working board to step up, and they did so once again this year under ongoing challenging circumstances. Thank you, and thank you to Scott Crawford, who continues to live and breathe the Hall of Fame, for all your hustle and enthusiasm and to get everything done behind the scenes. A huge shout out to Brian, Z, Anton, and the team at VBC for making us all look good and sound good today online. And finally, to Jeanette and Kathy at Blue Elephant Productions for all your support in helping this event happen. We could have not done it without all your efforts. We are so thrilled that you have joined us for this very special event and hope that you enjoy our new and exciting segment, Bring the Heat. Take it away.
Churro, obviously. Probably Dick Stockton, because that's the person I wanted to be. On the floor, on the field for major sporting events. Colin Kaepernick. World Cup soccer final or the Euro soccer final. Play 7-inning games in the big leagues to get more people engaged and interested. Without a doubt, it's Dan Shulman. Such an emphasis on teamwork, such an emphasis on fundamentals, such a priority that if I lift up the person beside me as a collective, we are going to succeed together. And that's what it's all about. This may not necessarily be the golden era of Canadian baseball, but it's hard to remember a time where there have been so many stars across the game on so many different levels, at so many different positions, from starting pitching to relief pitching to the mega stars who are at the plate raking. And this is a time that for so many of us, we can wrap our arms around what's happening in baseball because we're seeing so many of them at a young age really start to thrive, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Milk and bags. Go out there, play hard, and have fun. Actually, I have two. One, being opening day starter in Toronto, and two, being a representative for the 2011 All-Star Game, representing the Blue Jays. Kevin Millar, 2009. Fenway Park, Boston. The Sandlot. Dustin Pedroia. Work ethic. Never give up. Go out there and make your dreams possible. Women's, definitely Canada. Men's, Mexico. Yes. First of all, for me, it's an honor to even be part of this. And my roots to Canadian baseball, I feel like have grown since the first day I was drafted. Thank you guys for welcoming me in with open arms. I always say this, playing for the Toronto Blue Jays was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. Thank you.
Ricky Romero, ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to find many better people than the former Toronto Blue Jay All-Star. And speaking of wonderful people, it's my pleasure now to introduce Canada's premier baseball historian, a member of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, an inductee in 2018, also an honorary inductee into the Saskatchewan Baseball Hall of Fame in 2004, and he is a recipient of the Queen's Golden Jubilee Medal, awarded to Canadians who've made outstanding and exemplary contributions to their communities or to Canada as a whole. And as far as baseball is concerned, Bill Humber has done absolutely that. He teaches a course at Seneca College called Baseball Spring Training for Fans. It's been going on for over 40 years. I've had the pleasure of getting to speak to them a couple of times. It is absolutely wonderful. Played a central role in the organization of Toronto's first SABR convention, and that's the Society of American Baseball Research. He's the only Canadian to have served on the board of directors. Who better to tell you about this induction class than William Humber?
The members of the Canadian baseball community honored today for their contributions to the game's long history in Canada reflect our story. 5 of them found their careers derailed by baseball's appalling color bar. William Galloway grew up in Dunnville, Ontario, where in true Canadian fashion, he was gifted at baseball and hockey. A member of Woodstock's ball team in the late 19th century, he was released when some teammates objected to his presence. "We need him for our hockey team," locals cried, but his baseball future would be with the all-black Cuban Giants. Likewise, Jimmy Claxton, born in Wellington, British Columbia, played briefly with the Oakland Oaks of the Pacific Coast League and even made it onto a baseball card in 1916. It did not prevent his release, however, when his heritage became an issue. To date, he is the only known Canadian-born ball player to attain major league status with the recent recognition of Negro League players as major leaguers. Charlie Culver was an outstanding product of Buffalo, New York's playgrounds, but in the period between the wars, there were few opportunities for him, and so he prospered in the welcoming world of Quebec's provincial league outside the dictates of organized baseball. Manny McIntyre, he of the famous all-black hockey line led by Herb Carnegie, and Fred Thomas, Canada's best basketball player, but before the integration of today's National Basketball Association, were both signed to organized baseball contracts shortly after Jackie Robinson's breakthrough. However, their ages, even though in their 20s, foreclosed a necessary progression through the developmental stages of the minor leagues. Jackie Robinson's season with the Montreal Royals in 1946 owes much to another of our inductees, Hector Racine. He assumed the leadership role for Montreal's International League team after its financial benefactor, Charles Trudeau, died at spring training in 1935. Racine guided the team through the Depression, negotiated a partnership with the Brooklyn Dodgers by the 1940s, and laid the groundwork for Montreal's glorious public response to Robinson. A teammate of Jackie's was Jean-Pierre Roy, a superior minor league pitcher and briefly a major leaguer who went on to promote baseball in Quebec and became a noted commentator. Another product of those Quebecois sandlots was Roland Gledoux, who deposited the game in England in the 1930s, where they called him the Babe Ruth of Canadian baseball. He briefly played with the Boston Braves and then, after the war, went to Mexico's new league, challenging the majors for the better players. A major figure in the development of baseball in Quebec and Atlantic Canada was the promoter and entrepreneur Joe Page, who used his position at the Canadian Pacific Railways to start baseball leagues and enable teams to reach rival cities. His enthusiasm was matched by that of James Cairns in Western Canada, the man behind the Western Canada Baseball League before World War I, and for whom a baseball park in Saskatoon was named. This was no get-rich-quick engagement by either Page and Cairns. In fact, in their eras, it was more often a recipe for losing money. It was based on their sincere love for the game. We also honor the New Brunswick-born Ernie Quigley, who made the majors, not as a player, but as one of the game's esteemed National League umpires of the 20th century, calling 3,351 games. Next door in Prince Edward Island, Vern Handrahan learned the game in his home province and became one of the few islanders to make it all the way to Major League Baseball before returning home to coach and scout. On the Pacific coast, one of the great teams of any era, the Japanese-Canadian Asahis, played at the highest level of senior baseball in Vancouver. The entire team has been recognized by the Hall, but in Roy Yamamura's case, his love of baseball continued after the war, despite the torment of internment. He moved to Eastern Canada, where he played, coached, umpired, and promoted the game into his senior years. Canadian authorities wrote to him after the war asking if he'd like his confiscated Most Valuable Player award returned, but the letter went to the wrong address, and by the time the error was corrected, it was lost. We hope this moment of recognition is one his family can enjoy. Another whose entire organization has already been recognized is Helen Callaghan's All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. Helen's love of baseball and teaching of others also continued after her career. One son, Kelly Kendall, made the documentary about the league, which inspired the Penny Marshall film, while another, Casey Kendall, went on to a 9-year major league playing career beginning in Montreal, followed by coaching roles, the latest in the Blue Jays organization, managing their AAA affiliate in Buffalo in 2021. Few stories, however, are as compelling as that of Jimmy Rattlesnake from the Cree First Nation in Masquatus near Edmonton. Between the wars, his mixture of pitchers bedeviled opponents as he played throughout Western Canada and the American Northwest. He rejected a major league tryout, choosing to remain close to home, but he later took the mound against barnstorming major league ball players visiting the West in the off-season. Western Canadian teams lined up to sign him for the era's prize money tournaments, which dotted the baseball calendar of Alberta and Saskatchewan between the wars. Two final stories of incomparable accomplishment in the 19th century were London, Ontario's Tecumseh, whose Major League International Association title of 1877 has been unfairly ignored and even downgraded by some later historians. They just can't believe that London was so exceptional. The team was, and that same year, they twice defeated the Chicago White Stockings, the National League's inaugural 1876 pennant winners. The Tecumseh's home field, today's Labatt Park, is the oldest continuous ballpark anywhere in North America. Finally, Bob Addy. He was born and raised in Port Hope, Ontario. Here he learned the game, becoming Canada's best ball player and cricketer in the late 1850s and early 1860s, before lighting out, as it were, for the American West, where he played alongside Al Spalding and later Cap Anson on the famous Rockford, Illinois Forest City team. Addy's success confirms that Canada was turning out superior ball players alongside the first generation of American stars. One more sign our unique and in many respects independent baseball history matches that south of the border. It's a marvelous collection. One team, 15 men and one woman, who made major contributions to the game in Canada and beyond. They are rightly celebrated for their legacy and brilliance on the ball diamond, behind the scenes, and in one case, behind the plate.
So there's a wonderful rundown from Bill Humber about all these new inductees into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, and we're going to keep Bill around here and get a little more detail. Bill, thanks for doing this little Q&A, and it, you ran down that list, and it is fantastic to see recognition finally for all these people who were either denied entry or not early enough in their careers to get through organized baseball and to get to the big leagues. Obviously, this isn't the end of the story, even though these are historical honorees. But might we hear more about Canada's role in black baseball as we continue on?
Well, there's some wonderful stories to tell of some of the teams that were around. A team in St. John, New Brunswick, the South End Royals in the 1920s, one of the superior senior baseball teams there. We had the Amber Valley team in Northern Alberta. These were almost refugees from Oklahoma who got out of the United States because they hoped for a better life in Canada. The one that many people love to tell the story of is the Chatham Colored All-Stars out of Chatham in the 1930s, who won an Intermediate B championship. But they weren't the first Ontario team. I've uncovered information about a team called the Lincoln Nine, who played in London, Ontario in 1869. So shortly after the Civil War, baseball in the black community was flourishing in Ontario in particular, also in places like Hamilton, St. Catharines, and around Niagara. So it was quite a going concern.
And there's still, I'm sure there's so much more to uncover, and it's amazing. Let's move on to Quebec and Hector Racine and Jean-Pierre Roy, Roland Gladue. You think of baseball in Quebec, you think of the Montreal Expos popping up in the late 60s. Mm-hmm. Is there a connection between A and B?
Well, you wouldn't think so, given that the Robinson story was in the 1940s. And of course, the expansion to Montreal didn't occur until 1968. But there is a story, and it may be apocryphal, but I like to believe it, that Walter O'Malley had such good memories of what Montreal had done in terms of welcoming, cheering for, and celebrating Jackie Robinson, that became a major factor in his promoting the cause of Montreal for expansion in 1968, which of course happened in 1969. And of course, O'Malley, whatever one might like to think about him, given that he did move the team out of Brooklyn, where it was a flourishing entity, he was a major voice in the National League, and his voice counted for a heck of a lot. And I think that was kind of a major factor in Montreal getting into the major leagues. And of course, that opened the door eventually for the Toronto Blue Jays.
And hopefully soon for Montreal to come back. maybe even sooner than later. We've heard the story, those Hall watchers of the Vancouver Asahis. Yeah. And if you haven't heard the story, you can go look them up on the Hall of Fame website. They're in the Hall of Fame. The story has a lot of ugliness in it, with the internments in World War II. And now Roy Yamamura gets his own personal bust, as it were, in the Hall of Fame. What's the significance of that for him?
Well, Roy was a dominant player in the league, and indeed one of the best players in Western Canada, but between the wars. And the fact that he put up with so much, losing his MVP award, being interned during the Second World War, the fact that he still loved baseball, and the fact that when he came East, he was still willing to engage in the game, to promote it, to do just about everything to make it happen, is a great story beyond his time with the Asahis. And it's kind of one of the major reasons that we thought he deserved that recognition at this time.
Let's talk about the last guy you mentioned, Bill, and that's Bob Addy, who was, the first Canadian to umpire, first Canadian to manage. I don't know if he invented the slide, but he certainly made it popular. Why has it taken us so long to get around to him?
Well, Bob Addy, in the latter part of his life, made an attempt to pretend to all that he was an American, that he'd been born in Rochester, New York. And we're not really sure why, but one must remember that period, 1870s, 1880s, there was a lot of the big X word in the United States, xenophobia. And it did not pay to be an outsider, even an outsider from Canada. If somebody who came obviously from Ireland was looked down upon. Obviously, if you're a Black citizen, you didn't even have the same rights as everybody. And even to be a Canadian was somehow to be, a little out of the ordinary. We're not used to that. And so despite all the documentation, and there's all kinds of documentation about his Canadian heritage, I even found copies of wills that he effectively was the overseer of in the 1880s for his mother and his brother, both in Port Hope. He made a pretty good attempt at hiding his background, and he almost succeeded until I have to give other researchers credit for at least pinning down the Port Hope entry into his life, and indeed all of his accomplishments thereafter were those accomplishments of somebody who not only was born in Port Hope, but learned the game there and indeed played the game there. And we even have an early box score from 1861 when Bob Addy of Port Hope played my hometown, Bowmanville, Ontario, in a ball game, and it made it all the way to the New York Clipper.
Wow. Okay, so there's some pretty impressive stuff. And look, Port Hope has a long-standing baseball tradition, right? It birthed the Quantrells as well.
Absolutely.
So a great baseball place there. Jimmy Rattlesnake. Here's a guy who could have gone to the big leagues, but wanted to stay near the First Nations in around Edmonton. That's some story.
It's an amazing story, and it's the kind of story that you think this has just got to be a legend. There's got to be more myth here than reality. And I did some digging into the newspapers of Edmonton and area in Western Canada, and it's all true. It's all spectacular accomplishments in a variety of different places. Jimmy would sell his abilities, as it were, to the highest paying team in the multiple numbers of tournaments that were held in Western Canada between the wars. I mean, big money tournaments were a big deal in Western Canada. He played all over the West and even in the American Northwest. And he even played against Major League ball players when they came barnstorming through the West. So his story, I think there's lots more still to uncover. This is a wonderful story, and I'm really hopeful that his induction brings more of the story out, because it's an incredible one for this Cree man from northern Alberta.
We got a couple more minutes here with Bill Humber and a lot more to talk about. You mentioned the big X word, the xenophobia, and I wonder how much that relates to the London Tecumsehs, because apparently they won baseball. They were the first Canadian team to win a major title in baseball, but just nobody gave them any credit for it.
Absolutely. Henry Chadwick said that the league that they played in, the International Association, by 1878 was the premier baseball league in North America. Trouble was, it didn't last. It like so many leagues from that era, they went out of business. They find the financings, as it was for the National League too. These were not money-making propositions in the early days, these major leagues. And that's partly downgraded. And I also think it's because Americans look across the border at London and Guelph. Guelph were the other members of the league in 1877, and say, well, those couldn't be of major league quality. Well, of course they were. And I like to point out to people, well, by that logic, Green Bay shouldn't be in the National Football League. Let's look at size of towns and cities and places. But there's all these anomalies in history, and we've got to be a lot more respectful of them than we do of this kind of frozen view of the past.
Yeah, Dan Shulman coming up as an award winner a little bit later on. Don't tell him about contracting the Green Bay Packers or anything like that. Vern Handrahan from PEI. How does an Islander get to the big leagues?
Well, there's so few of them. And, George Wood, who's in the Hall of Fame, also from PEI, but his family left Prince Edward Island when he was just a child. So he learned most of his baseball in the U.S. Vern, on the other hand, he learned it on the island. The old saying about Dominican ball players, you don't get off the island, by walking. It probably true for Vern too. He was a really good ball player. He played with Kansas City for a couple of seasons, but more than that, he brought that love and that knowledge back to the island and used it as a scout, as a coach, and in terms of helping others get off the island as well.
People out east watching this will say now, if you're willing to take a hike down the Confederation Bridge, you can walk off the island, but it's probably not the best idea. Let's briefly touch on the All-American Girls Baseball League. Everybody's familiar with the movie A League of Their Own. Yep. And obviously there were Canadians there. They're in that song that they sing in the movie. Yep. And there's even a trickle down to the current Toronto Blue Jays organization.
Well, that's the amazing thing, isn't it? That here's Helen Kelgan, who played in the league for 4 seasons, went on to raise a family in the United States, and continued with her love of baseball and continued teaching her own kids. And one of them, of course, Kelly, went on to produce the documentary, which became really the inspiration for Penny Marshall to do the movie A League of Their Own. And then the other, Casey, well, he just had a 9-year career in the major leagues, starting with the Montreal Expos, and interestingly enough. And now he's in 2021 was the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays chief farm team in Buffalo. So everything it's always nice to see things kind of come full circle with baseball, isn't it? You see these great moments.
Yeah, you have that tree coming down from the AAPGBL. Last thing I want to ask you is baseball. We lament the fact that baseball is a business and that there are people who just get into it to make money. Joe Page and James Cairns were a couple of early day entrepreneurs, and I'm assuming that the billions of dollars weren't awaiting them.
No, I make that point. It was probably a better recipe for losing money. Baseball was popular, largely driven at the commercial end in Canada. Most sports, when we look at their history, be it lacrosse, football, hockey, had very, very strong kind of either government or university or college or school connections. Baseball was different. It had significant commercial aspects associated with it. And that's the thing that allowed it to survive. And it was people like Joe Page, with the Canadian Pacific Railways, who turned that into an opportunity to start new leagues in Quebec and Atlantic Canada. And Mr. Cairns, James Cairns in Western Canada, who started the Western Canada Baseball League and even has a ballpark named after him.
Fantastic stuff from Bill Humber. We can see why he's in the Hall of Fame as an historian. I mean, I'm working off notes here. Bill is absolutely not. This is some great information and really appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Hi, this is Casey Candell. I just wanted to thank the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, along with my brothers, Kerry, Kelly, Rick, and Rocky, about our mother's induction into the hall. We're very proud and very honored, as we know she would be too. We can't wait to come and visit the exhibits there. And again, we just wanted to show our gratitude and let you know how much it means to us as a family. And we look forward to getting there and visiting.
Southwestern Ontario was a hotbed for baseball in the 1860s and 1870s, long before the good folks in Toronto or Detroit embraced the game. After early success by Woodstock, the Guelph Maple Leafs knocked them off to become Canadian champions in 1869. Guelph brewer George Sleeman became the driving force behind the Maple Leafs and hired American players to stay on top. Meanwhile, in London, American-born oil refiner Jake Engelhart took the helm of the Tecumsehs, and he hated losing. Guelph and London developed a fierce rivalry, and games between them drew as many as 10,000 spectators. Impressive, considering Guelph was a town of 8,000 and London a city of 18,000. In 1876, after copying Sleeman by hiring skilled American players, London finally defeated Guelph to become Canadian champions. Guelph and London were among the top teams in North America and were competitive when they played touring professional teams from Chicago, Boston, St. Louis, and elsewhere. For 1877, Guelph and London decided to take their rivalry to another level. London had a brand new ballpark, now known as the world's oldest. They became founding members of the International Association, a league that was established to challenge the new National League. The Tecumsehs placed second for most of the 1877 season, but in October, finally defeated the Alleghenies of Pittsburgh to take the inaugural pennant of the International Association. Guelph fared poorly and struggled to complete the season, and the National League offered London a spot, but it declined. Financial woes during 1878 forced London to let its imported Americans go as it struggled to complete the International Association season. After that, the Tecumsehs played mainly Canadian teams. The top American players for the Tecumsehs were pitcher Fred Goldsmith, one of the first curveball hurlers, his catcher Phil Powers, and left fielder Joe Horning. Afterward, Goldsmith played for Chicago, Powers for Cincinnati, and Horning for Boston and Buffalo. Londoners who played on their home team included Tom Galene and Richard Southam, and I know the boys would be happy with this belated recognition.
Hi, my name is Marlene McIntyre, and on behalf of the McIntyre family, I would like to begin by thanking the Selection Committee and the Board of Directors of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame for including my father in this special induction. Our father was very fortunate to have excelled at many sports during his career at a time when race relations were not at their best. And even though our father was a humble man, whose words of wisdom to his family were always to believe in yourself, we know that this honor would have made him proud. And I can just see the big smile of contentment and happiness right now on his face. As a family, we are so very proud of our father. And even though he was a great baseball player and an athlete, he was also as good of a father and a grandfather to his family and friends. And when he fostered a relationship, it was for life. John Lutz was a dear friend to my father and became one of the family. And it was John who played an instrumental role in this induction. And here is John to say a few words for the family.
I was born with hearing loss, felt different, saw difference. I saw Manny play hockey at age 11. He was a great player, like in baseball. He became my hero along with Babe Ruth and Willie Mays. We met as adults, became friends. I delivered the eulogy at his funeral, concluding with a bilingual haiku poem respecting his wife, Rita Vigneault. Manny, honorable soul, l'athlète d'excellence suprême, man of character.
Hi, I am Bonnie Fukuzawa. My dad is Roy Yamamura. Dad was one of many great players on the Vancouver Asahi baseball team from approximately 1920 to 1942. When I was informed that Dad was being inducted as an individual player to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in November, I was so thrilled, excited, happy, and very, very proud. Baseball was always a big part of his life. This was his greatest achievement. I do not think he ever imagined it would come true. Such an honor for him. On behalf of myself and my family, thank you all very much for recognizing my dad's legendary accomplishment as an amazing Asahi player in a sport he thought passionately to be the best game ever.
Roy Halladay. I don't remember. My high school coach. A lot of nervous energy. Eric Gagne. Wrigley Field. Anything Nickelback. Kit Kat Chunkies. The Ganaraska River. Throwing strikes. Incredibly fast. Thank you for the support. It doesn't go unnoticed. We all appreciate you, and we look forward to putting on another show next year.
Windsor. Hard work. This is a funny one. Anybody who knows me knows that I brush my hair between every single inning. Shoot for the moon. Even if you missed, you'll land among the stars. Throwing mechanics. It's always an honor to win any award given to you from Baseball Canada, but that's obviously a really prestigious award because it talks about the relationships and the character that you have as a teammate, and so not just your on-field performance, but all the other attributes that you bring to a team. So that was really an honor for me. Pan Am Games, silver medal. There's so many intricacies to the game, and that's what I love so much about it. So I just encourage everybody, obviously we'd love them to play recreationally, but to take some time and actually sign up, get registered, because I don't think that they would regret it.
Hello, I'm Jamie Campbell, and I'm joined by Joe Siddle. We're here to honor the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame's 2019 and 2020 winners of the Tip O'Neill Award and the Jack Graney Award.
The Tip O'Neill Award is presented annually to the Canadian player who has excelled in individual achievement and team contribution and has adhered to baseball's highest ideals. To determine the winner of the award, the Hall takes into account a number of criteria: on-field performance, contributions to their team and community, and their charitable endeavors. The award is named after Woodstock, Ontario native James Tip O'Neill, who was Canada's first superstar, playing in just over 1,000 major league games from 1883 to 1892. During his career, he had a .326 average and in 1887 won the Triple Crown. Congratulations to Mike Soroka on winning the 2019 James Tip O'Neill Award. Mike finished second in the National League Rookie of the Year voting and sixth in the Cy Young Award voting and is a first-time winner of this award. In his first full major league season, Soroka posted a 13-4 record and a .268 ERA while striking out 142 batters in 29 starts for Atlanta. His ERA ranked third in the National League. Among National League rookie hurlers, Soroka had the best ERA, was third in wins and fourth in games started, innings pitched, and strikeouts. For his efforts, he was named to the National League All-Star team. On top of his strong on-field performance in 2019, Soroka has also been active in charitable and community endeavors. He worked with a number of charities that his club's foundation supports, including Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. He also worked with the Children's Epilepsy Unit during the season to host a number of children and their parents at a game. Back in his home province, he serves as an ambassador for Kidsport Calgary. Congratulations, Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike Soroka, and I'd like to say thank you to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. It's an honor to be presented with this prestigious award, to be up there with some of the best names of our country and of the game of baseball. It's incredible to look up there and see the names. Obviously, this is for a couple of years ago, and we haven't been able to present it in person. But I wanted to say Canadian baseball is in great shape. We got some great players that are coming up that are in the big leagues already. And it's going to be a competition for this award every year going forward. I can't wait to be a part of that. Thank you.
And now, congratulations to Jamie Romack on winning the 2020 James Tip O'Neill Award. A first-time winner of this award, Romack batted .282 with 32 home runs in 139 games for the SK Wyverns of the Korean Baseball Organization. On top of his power numbers, Romack also scored 85 runs, recorded 32 doubles, and walked 91 times while registering a .546 slugging percentage and a .945 OPS. Romack also ranked in the top 10 in several KBO offensive categories, including tied for first in walks, tied for sixth in home runs, seventh in slugging percentage, and eighth in OPS. Born in London, Ontario, Romack completed his fourth season with the SK Wyverns in 2020. During his tenure with the club, he never belted less than 29 home runs in a season, hitting a career-high 43 in 2018. Prior to his tenure in Korea, Romack played for the London Badgers and Canadian national team and played parts of 13 seasons in the minor leagues, along with major league stints with the Dodgers in 2014 and the Diamondbacks in 2015. Romack has also been active in charitable and community endeavors during his career. He's been a strong supporter of Baseball Canada and of the boys and girls clubs in the various cities in which he played. Congratulations, Jamie.
Hey guys, this is Jamie Romack. Just would like to take the next minute or so to thank everyone at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, its board members, executives, Scott Crawford, everyone involved in the process of selecting me to be the 2020 Tip O'Neill Award winner. As I wrap up my career and reflect on all the great times, this is right up there with any of them, just seeing my name on that trophy with so many amazing Canadian baseball players, guys that I looked up to so much, guys that set the path really for the next generation of us ball players. And truly an honor. I was really thrilled to get the call from Scott last year. Didn't really sink in at the time, but I'm really looking forward to bringing up my kids up to St. Mary's and having them check out the trophy and showing them that Dad used to be a ball player, and that's something that all Canadian kids from our area can achieve. Big thrill receiving the trophy on at the stadium here in Korea this year with my family with me. Tremendous memories and moments, and just very grateful for it. So thank you guys so much.
The Jack Graney Award is presented to a member of the media who has made a significant contribution to baseball in Canada, either through their life's work or for a singular outstanding achievement. Chaired by Kevin Glue, a sports writer and editor for the Canadian Baseball Network, the voting committee is made up of the previous winners of the award. Graney was born in St. Thomas, Ontario, and played in just over 1,400 Major League Baseball games from 1908 to 1922. During his career, he led the American League in walks twice, was the first hitter to face pitcher Babe Ruth, and first former player to make the transition to the broadcast booth, performing radio play-by-play for Cleveland from 1932 to 1953. Congratulations to former Toronto Sun columnist Ken Fidlin on winning the 2019 Jack Graney Award. Ken started working for the Woodstock Sentinel-Review in 1971 and went on to write for the Kingston Whig-Standard, Ottawa Journal, and Ottawa Today before he was hired by the Toronto Sun in 1980. Fidlin had the opportunity to cover 20 World Series, 2 Stanley Cup championships, 2 Olympic Games, 5 Super Bowls, and 9 Grey Cups over the next 36 years. His excellent work was on display as the Sun's Blue Jays reporter from 1983 to 1991. He doubled as the paper's baseball columnist for a stretch and found time to co-author the official Blue Jays album, A Dozen Years of Baseball Memories, in 1989. From 1991 to 97, Fidlin served as a general sports columnist, then returned to work the Blue Jays beat from 2007 to 2016. He retired in December 2016 after writing for more than 45 years. In his farewell column for The Sun, Fidlin explained why the most memorable moment of his sports writing career came when John McDonald hit a home run on Father's Day on June 20th, 2010. Congratulations, Ken.
For much of the last half century, it has been my crazy good fortune to make a living writing about the greatest of games, baseball. To have the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame put my name on the Jack Graney Award is the icing on a totally unexpected cake. Credit for any tiny impact left behind by my random scribblings belongs to those who guided me along the way. Primary among those are my mother, Dorothy Fidlin, and my wife, Heather Pullen. My mom shared with me her love and appreciation for the written word. It's a gift I cherish to this day. For 41 years, Heather juggled her own career along with motherhood and a life of unlimited kindness. She died last year after a 3-year battle with cancer, But she was here in 2019 when Scott Crawford called to tell me of this award. Despite her failing health, I have never seen Heather more radiant with pride than on that day. Her reaction told me that whatever commitment I had made to my career, hers was many times that. My only wish is that she was still here to share this moment. Thank you.
Our final recipient is a member of this network. Congratulations to Dan Schulman, winner of the 2020 Jack Graney Award. Dan attended the University of Western Ontario and took up broadcasting as an extracurricular activity in his first year. He soon found himself doing play-by-play for the university's basketball, football, and hockey teams. By 1990, Schulman started working as an anchor for CKBB, a radio station in Barrie, Ontario. A year later, he moved to the Fan 1430, where he hosted several shows, including Primetime Sports, the Major League Report, and Baseball Today. In 1995, he began serving as the Blue Jays play-by-play commentator with Buck Martinez and worked part-time at ESPN. After joining ESPN full-time, he became the voice of Wednesday Night Baseball from 2002 to 2007, Monday Night Baseball from 2008 to 2010, and Sunday Night Baseball from 2011 to 2017. Schulman has been calling postseason games for ESPN since 1998 and the World Series since 2011. He was named National Sportscaster of the Year in 2011 by the National Sportscasters and Sports Writers Association and was selected the Sports Media Canada Broadcaster of the Year in 2000 and 2007. Schulman returned to Blue Jays baseball in 2016 and has been calling games for Sportsnet ever since. In previous years, he's also been named one of 8 finalists for the National Baseball Hall of Fame's Ford C. Frick Award. Congratulations, Dan.
I want to thank everybody at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame for choosing me to receive this award. I am truly humbled by this, and even more so when I look at the names of the other winners of the Jack Graney over the years. You know, as a young kid growing up in Toronto, I don't think I ever could have imagined how big of a day April 7th, 1977 would be. And of course, that's the day of the first Blue Jay game. I was lucky enough to go with some friends of the family and was at that game. And I was absolutely hooked on baseball from that day forward. But even back then, obviously, I don't think I ever could have imagined the impact that baseball would have on me, where it would lead me professionally, or so many of the lifelong relationships that I have developed through baseball, for which I am eternally grateful. I want to thank the people who took a chance on me professionally, both here in Canada and the US, and allowed me the opportunity to broadcast baseball games. I've been doing it for 27 years, feel very blessed to have done it for that long, and hope it continues for many, many more. Again, I want to thank Scott Crawford and everybody in St. Mary's, everybody at the Great Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame for this award. It means more to me than I could ever put into words. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all of our recipients. Your contributions to Canadian baseball are appreciated.
And our appreciation extends to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame for inviting us to participate. We look forward to seeing you again on opening day.
Wow, I mean, my favorite player growing up was Nolan Ryan. You know, just kind of, my dad's my idol, but Nolan Ryan was my hero. I'm going to go, you know what, I'm going to go up in the interior, and I'm going to say Trail. Trail, BC, the hotbed back in the day. Biggest superstition I had was my night before a start dinner was chicken parmesan over some sort of noodles. Best chicken parmesan was D'Agostino's in Chicago. That was my go-to before any home game. Fred McGriff. I never want to see Fred McGriff ever in the batter's box again because he's too nice of a guy to hit him. You know, like I'm not going to drill him with a pitch. So, but he just absolutely owned me. The Crime Dog. Best Canadian song to warm up to. I've had it in a pregame playlist before. Tragically Hip, Blow It High Dough. I'm going to throw this out here. All right. A league of their own. Nobody's better than Fergie Jenkins. But if I have to go 1-2 after him, I'll go Larry Walker, Joey Votto. My personal message to Canadian baseball fans: continue to love the game the way you do. I wouldn't be a major league pitcher if it wasn't for the support of all the people I had growing up at Little League fields to, my journey along the way in high school. And Canadians love baseball. Often misunderstood by people south of the border. We love it. It's not just about hockey.
Probably my father. He was home quite a bit. And I think the nice thing about it is he played baseball. Oh, probably from San Francisco, Willie McCovey. I really like to pitch in Chavez Ravine in Los Angeles. It's a great ballpark. It was at the time, it was really, really big. But they've shortened the dimensions of the ballpark. Probably Philadelphia, the old Connie Mack Stadium. When I got traded from the Phillies to the Cubs and going back, there was always a few fans that didn't see eye to eye on how I was performing. I think patience is the most important thing. When you go out there and you take the field, you have to understand that you're not the only one that's performing. And as a pitcher, you got to have patience when it comes to seeing with runners on base or with a good hitter up to the plate. You have to understand that what you're trying to accomplish is to get that hitter out. And a lot of times he gets himself out. But patience is very important. Well, as a kid, I was always told always wear a long shirt. And over my career, which is like 20-some years, I always pitched with a long sleeve sweater. I think Joey Votto with the Cincinnati Reds will possibly be the next individual to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Very good ball player. I just think that Canada hasn't been noticed enough for the athletes, especially in baseball. When I first signed, there has been some great athletes that have played well before me. Rena Patoya from Windsor, Ontario. Johnny Upham signed before I did. So I don't think that we really got, recognition for having athletes that could play baseball.
Well, what a great way to finish up our 2021 Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame induction celebration and awards ceremony. Who else but Ferguson Jenkins from Chatham, Ontario, the first to be inducted into the Hall of Fame on both sides of the border. Of course, this year he was joined by Larry Walker of Maple Ridge, BC. That's going to do it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for enjoying our ceremony and helping us welcome all the new members to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. But before I let you go, here's a way that you can help us out. This is wonderful support, just being here and watching, but you can also support the Hall of Fame by joining, becoming a member. And in fact, if you do purchase a membership or renew your membership over the course of the next 24 hours, you will get a special gift from the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. So you might want to do that before tomorrow night. As well, there's a wonderful silent auction, tons of prizes, including a half-hour personal Zoom with me for whatever that's worth. But we would love to have you along. We would love to have you support the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum that way. Big thank you to all of you. A huge thank you to our generous sponsors and supporters. And that's going to do it. My name is Mike Wilner. Next year, we'll do this in person, and we'll see you then.